All right, we'll start this again. Good morning, everybody. Now that I'm recording it, actually. Oh, I'm still getting the hang of this thing. Just you'll just have to excuse me. I need a little bit more juice. But yeah, I am having to stream through my phone, and sometimes it gives me glitches, and sometimes not. So this feed might fade in and out. However, I am recording it, and I do post the video um, a little bit later in the morning. So if it fades out, I apologize about that. Um, man, my mind is just not able to focus this morning, but sometimes that's the way it is. You just kind of got to go with it. So um, I am going to just wing it. The key is I am here because, you know, the most important part in our artistic practice is being able to be consistent and or at least aim at consistency. Um, you'll probably drive yourself nuts to be 100% consistent every single time, and that is stress that I don't need to be carrying. So, but my philosophy is you keep aiming at it, and then ultimately it becomes second nature, and then you don't even have to think about it again. It's like waking up early in the morning. I've had like over the years, I've had to sort of train myself to become a morning person. I used to be like when I was a kid, I used to be a morning person and was able to get up. Then hanging out with my older cousin, and he wouldn't wake up till about 11 or noon. And I used to think that was cool. I mean, it's cool. I mean, if that's your thing, that's fine. But I then decided that, you know what, I'm just going to start sleeping late because my cousin does it. And then I then started waking up later in the day. And it wasn't until like I was, I don't know, a little bit older that I'm like, you know what, I really just love the mornings. And I used to like wake up really, really late. And sometimes it would get so absurd. Like I would have to reset the clock every time. And it would get reset to waking up at 10 in the morning. And what would happen is I would slowly over the course of the next couple weeks it would slowly push back because I would each day I would start later and then the core painting sort of sessions that I would do would then start pushing way into the night, and then sometimes I wouldn't even get like a good painting flow till about 11 at night, which means I'm going till about 3 or 4 in the morning. Then I'd crash, and then it would get so bad that I would start waking up at like 2 in the afternoon, and then I would have to reset the whole cycle again, and then it would go back to 10, and then on and on. So I I really do love mornings. I love how quiet they are. I love the peacefulness. I love how crisp the air is in the morning. I like how the sunlight, the color of the sunlight at sunsets and sunrises are some of the best lighting um, that I enjoy. So I trained myself to start getting up early. And it's not like I just decided, okay, no, I'm going to start getting up at 6 every morning. I literally had to train myself. I had to do it in slow increments. It's like, okay, let's aim for 9 o'clock, and then I do that for a few months. All right, let's aim for 8:30, and then slowly I just kept pushing it back till I got till about 6 in the morning, and then after just consistently aiming at getting up at 6 in the morning, it just became natural. And now I don't have an issue getting up early in the morning unless I am out past midnight like I was last night, and I didn't even start making my way back to my home until about just after midnight, and like I said, it's an hour ride, so I get home at around 1 in the morning, and then I have to be up because like I know it's 10 o'clock on the eastern coast, but I'm on Mountain Time, so it's 8 in the morning for me. So the alarm went off at 6, but then I'm like I can go till 7. I need an extra hour. Then 7 rolled around, and I was like, yeah, I can go to about 7:30. And then I got up, and I have discovered this morning that I can do this and get the coffee and get all set up and well get out of bed, get everything ready within 30 minutes and be here in 30 minutes. But it's hard because I'm running a little bit slow, so and I don't the problem with that is I don't give my mind the time that I need to kind of just sort of think about what I want to talk about in the show. So uh, yeah, so it's going to be a pouty Keith kind of day because I'm tired. But I have coffee. It'd be a lot worse if I didn't have any coffee. But a lot of good things happening this week. One, I'm back in Colorado. I was in Atlanta for about 2 weeks in the 95-degree weather, and it was awful. Um, just southern summers are just, especially August, are just not my cup of tea. And I basically looked at the temperature of what the temperature in Colorado was like all the time. I think while I was in Georgia in the 95-degree weather, I think got up to maybe about 82 here. So, couple really cool things that are going on right now is um, we Arcane Arena, Chris Torlucas and my business partner and myself, um, we have our game finally at our first convention with Indie. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Indie Game Alliance, um, and they basically are carrying our game at all of the different conventions. So we made our first official Arcane Arena sale at Gen Con yesterday. So I am proud to say that the game is out there and it's starting to be sold, and we'll see where it goes. So, but it feels good because my business partner is in the middle of starting a family, and I'm in the middle of moving to Colorado. So our time is really, really seriously occupied with major life transitions at the moment. So it's good that we have this agreement with Indie Game Alliance where they'll take our games to the different conventions for us. So it's nice to know that I'm sitting here doing what I'm doing, and there's somebody out there pushing our game for us, and it's cool because they were really really cool. They sent us a picture of like, yeah, here's your first sale, and I'll probably post that picture a little bit later, but it's just something to really get giddy about because you work on a project for 2.5 years because it took us about 2.5 years to well, Chris actually had done worked on it for about 5 years because um, Chris, who designed the game, designed the mechanics of Arcane Arena, basically tweaked all of the, balanced the game over the course of 2.5 years before I came on board to do the artwork. Hey, what's up, boo? Good to see you, Thomas. But when you like work on a project for 2.5 to 3 years, and you're in the middle of it and you feel like you're never ever going to finish it, it's like, oh God. And then you finish it and then you're just exhausted and then you just got to keep pushing because like once you finish the game, then you got to get the game printed. Then you got to get the game out there. You have to market the game. You have to push the game. And it's non-stop. And it's a love of passion because you know we did all of it with a no sal. Now hopefully the money will start coming in and we'll start making money off of it. But it's out there, so it's out there, and we're at Gen Con. Our debut convention is Gen Con 23. So that is a pretty cool debut. And we made our first sale yesterday. So good things coming. I know probably conventions for me and my partner Chris are probably out for this year, but next year I'll probably do Gen Con. I'll probably do Dragon Con. It just depends. Wherever Indie Game Alliance goes, and I have the ability to make it, I'll be able to go and just do play tests while I'm there, so people can check it out. Because it's a fun game. It's a medium difficulty game. It takes a little bit getting, it's really good if you have somebody that can walk you through a round of the game to really get the idea of it. Because there's a little bit of a setup to do. And I did the best I could writing the instruction manual, not ever having written an instruction manual before. So yeah, so that project was like I had to do all of the artwork, I had to do all the marketing artwork, I had to do all the social media artwork, I had to do all of the box artwork, I had to write and design and sort of format the instruction manual. And I wanted the instruction manual to kind of read a little bit like a more of like a graphic novel, be more sort of graphic heavy instead of text heavy. So I like pictures. I like being able to do pictures that explain how to do things. So it was fun. But anyhow, how are you doing, Thomas? What are you up to this morning? You're in Eastern time, so you're at 10 o'clock. I'm still at 8 in the morning. I got my coffee, which would be good, because that's kind of half of this show. Without the coffee, it's just going to be creative, which is fine with me, but that coffee, man. Oh. See, I can't do that because I'm, wait, hold up. See, now you can't see me. Boogies everywhere. Let's boogie. All right. That's the kind of morning it's going to be, coffee and boogers. I think I'll name that. No, I'm not going to name the episode Coffee and Boogers. Maybe? Boo. Boogers. Is there boo and boogers? Do ghosts get boogers? What are ghost boogers? I don't know. I can already tell it's going to be a morning. So we've got 45 minutes to go, and we're already at boogers. I know what I'll do. There is a boo in boogers. I guess it would be bogers. Bogies? Boogers. Yeah, there's got to be a good ghost booger joke somewhere. What is a good ghost booger joke? I'm going to need more coffee for that one. So, but, I'm going to bring it back around to Arcane Arena for just a sec. I got slimed. Yeah, that's right. Okay, Ghostbusters kind of got that slimed. I'm just, my humor is just failing me today. I'm usually a little bit more wittier, but anyhow, um, I had a good night last night. So, like I said, like I don't know if you heard it earlier. I didn't get into 1 in the morning because like I went down to Denver. I didn't leave Denver till midnight, and it takes about an hour to get back. I almost threw up all over myself. Like I said, that's the kind of morning it's gonna be. 42 minutes to go. Um, no, so Arcane Arena is out there now, and um, Tom, I need to get your address because I have your 3 games I need to give you. I'm actually going to send you 4 games for the wait. So I'm going to get you 4 games out there. So don't put your address into the chat because I won't have it later. So and I'm gonna send you a bunch of stickers also. I'm gonna send you a bunch of the new stickers for the wait. So, but yeah, like the game is out there. We're at Gen Con. We're being represented by Indie Game Alliance out there, and they're a really cool little group that supports the indie gamers, the people that make independent games. And you'd be surprised at how good some of these independent games are, that people put all of this love and passion into and do. And so they're out there representing us. They're going to take our game to whichever convention they go to. And then hopefully next year, I'll be able to catch up with them and be able to do sort of test plays and all of that stuff. Um, awesome. Thank you. I know I've got it somewhere, but I don't know where. I'll have to go find it, but that'll help me. I want to try to get that out to you this week. And but yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into the conventions next year. But that whole project has been leading up to the next project that I want to kind of talk about. So one of the reasons why I did Arcane Arena was it was an opportunity to work on a big scale project, be the art director and the artist for a big scale project, and kind of when you work on a project where you've got to do 46 pieces of artwork and they all need to sort of gel with each other and sort of kind of feel like they belong with each other and they sort of communicate with each other for each of the different cards in the card game. Um, it's a big to do organizing all of that because you've got all of the different pieces of artwork and then you've got all of the different cards that artwork goes on. And so like you've got like if you ever see how I have all of my files linked, because like in the Illustrator with the card file, which the artwork gets inserted to, it's sort of like a like embedded, so that if I modify the original artwork, the card is updated automatically. And then yeah, so managing 46 pieces of artwork and getting them to all work together is it just takes a lot of patience, a lot of time, and you got to like ultimately develop systems. So but one of the reasons why I did do the game was it was an opportunity to practice that, because I do want to write graphic novels, and that is a lot more than 46 pieces of artwork. Instead of 46 pieces of artwork, we're going to be looking at more like, I have no idea, 200 to 500, depending on how deep I want to go with it. and I want the artwork. The artwork is going to be telling most of the story. So I feel like what I have learned with Arcane Arena and the doing the art direction on that and all of the processes and the systems I put in place, I now have the chops to be able to handle the graphic novel. So, but yeah, so the other thing I kind of really started this past week was, you know, started getting all of the like practicing, like um, starting doing a bit of sketching for the graphic novel that I'll be starting this winter. I'm not the official day that I'm starting the graphic novel will be the first snowfall in Georgetown, which I'm trying to be ready for. So like what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of gathering a lot of resource material. Um, you know, uh, I'm getting all sort of like the specs and images of, the types of equipment, the vehicles, the airplanes, the ammunition, the weapons, the uniforms. Want to make sure like what does the water bottle look like? What kind of equipment did the soldiers have while they were out there? Because I mean, I was born when the war was happening, so it's like I'm ignorant of a lot of what was, that time period. So I'm having to do a lot of research. So a lot of what I've started doing this week is just gathering image, finding websites to be source material, um, what kind, the rifles that they use, pistols, you know, um, there's just so much. The textures of the uniforms, what kind of camo was it? The jeeps, trucks, um, the setting. Because another big thing that I have to do is I'm researching sort of like um, the graphic novel starts out in 1969 Seaside Heights. So I'm having to find old photos of the boardwalk from Seaside Heights and the beach, because I'm trying to make that as accurate as possible. Um, looking for pictures of the landscapes of Vietnam, of the areas where my uncle was, um, you know, Saigon, old pictures from 1969 Saigon. So it's like, and then the other thing is like you find the photos and it might come up in your search for 1969 Saigon, but you might get some other city. Yeah, M16s. Um, so yeah, so I'm having I'm gathering up all of this research, so I have all of this source material for when I start. Plus I've started sketching like the Hueys, and I think the next thing I'm gonna do is sort of do some sketches of some of the Jeeps, and then I'll probably do some of the airplanes. Um, I also have to be mindful. Is like I don't necessarily need to do like my uncle wasn't really a pilot, so like I mostly just I'm going to need to show planes up in the air. Um, I'm gonna have to study napalm. You know, yeah. I mean, there's just so much that's like, you know, I'm just gonna have to learn. I will probably. I will probably be. He said, Hancock. Um, I will probably be a Vietnam expert by the end of this because I think this is going to take me about 3 to 4 years to do. I'm just doing one chapter this winter just to kind of sort of use that as the template for you know what it's all going to look like. So yeah, so the goal is this winter, and the name of the graphic novel is Iron. So, um, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. I'm trying to think in terms of creating video clips for later. Um, but the goal is to be able, yeah, I'm gonna go through all of the different movies like Good Morning Vietnam, Apocalypse Now, Platoon, Full Metal Jacket. I think Hamburger Hill's one of them. um, Tropic Thunder. Uh, um, what's the what was the one that had Michael J. Fox and oh god, that actor that looks like Jeff Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High that I can never remember, and I think he dated Madonna for a while. Um, shit, I don't know, but yeah. So, oh god, there's another one, Heaven and Earth with the Tommy. I not it's not Tommy Lee Jones. I forgot who's in that one. Uh, Mike, no, it's not Michael Caine. He was the father in Maverick. I can't remember that actor's name. Um, so yeah, so like I'm taking all of this source material, gathering all of it up. You know, I don't know. I haven't found any graphic novels that have been done on Vietnam yet, but I'm sure they're out there. I need to kind of do a little bit more research there. But I am looking up sort of, you know, looking at like other war graphic novels that have been created. Um, you know, just kind of seeing what other people have done. You know, not necessarily a copy. It's just I want to like I already know that like what I'm going to be doing, like because like my process is so different than the industry standard that it's gonna have it's gonna have its own unique look to it. So in fact, let me bring it up. All right, that didn't work. Hold on a second. That's why. Is that it? Yep, there we go. So yeah, man, here is one of the first. Um, this could potentially be um, the chapter that I'm doing this winter, which is called "It's a Fucking Dragon." Um, this could potentially be the opening scene of the chapter that I'm doing this winter, and but this is my first digital sketch that I did this week. So um, it's I mean it's still very rough. I yeah, Forrest Gump is definitely a good movie to put in there. Um, I'm just gonna watch them all, you know. But like, oh, oh, there it is. Yeah, so like I basically had to draw this rifle um, this past week. So it's like I'm starting to study the equipment that was used as a way of leading up to this, and you know the poncho, like studying the poncho, the boots, the pants, you know, like all of the gear. Um, I also like the scene because it's not really giving the characters away too much. You're just sort of like seeing the like you know like the characters are sort of veiled at the moment. So that's another thing that I need to do is like do little sort of character sort of sketch work for well mostly the platoon. So that my uncle was in. So One coffee down, second coffee on deck. And it's a large coffee. So the goal this winter is to be able to take one chapter. Roughly, this chapter that I'm doing this winter is going to be in the middle, where it's not going to give too much away of the story and how the story is going to be formatted, but it's going to give a depth of the aesthetic, sort of the context of the dialogue and the content, and like how deep we're going to go. And it kind of can stand on its own. It's got seriousness to it, but it's also kind of a little bit of it's going to be one of the chapters that's the comedic relief in the intensity that the story is going to be, because um, you know it's going to be intense. There's going to be people dying in my story, and I know they die in my story. So, but I mean, there's just so much. I mean, now that like I've really started mapping out the game plan to do this, and I'm just talking about just one chapter by itself. You know, which there can potentially be 25 chapters to this. Um, I don't know, maybe 24, 25 chapters. I don't know. We will see. But you know, it's just there is just so much information that you have to gather. You know, because like the one thing that scares me, I think I was alluding to this a little bit last week, and I'm sorry that the microphone was awful. By the way, how is this sound? Is the sound? Am I clipping? Am I clipping? Is that distortion gone? I think that's good. That's a little bit better. I'm hoping my microphone. I'm on a good blue microphone, that condenser mic that is top notch. You know, it's about a $200 microphone, and it sits like right up here, and it's got a nice little cradle to it. So, oh, there we go. But again, the the thing that scares me the most about doing this story is if I don't do it right, if I don't do it with respect, if I don't be consistent with accuracy, historical accuracy, um, yeah, people are gonna have my ass for breakfast, and it's you know, you don't want to ruffle the feathers of the Vietnam vet community, um, and you know that's the last thing that I want to do with the story. So it's like, you know, like first and foremost, like is like historical accuracy, respect, you know, honor, you know, making sure that you know I don't want this to be another one of those like like yeah, it was awful, but I don't want the major like focus of this story to be like how awful the Vietnam War was. We all know it was awful. We all have watched the movies. It's just I want to bring a deeper part of the human aspect to what our kids did out of high school, being like we have a generation of kids that came out of high school and literally had their lives taken from them and were thrown right out of high school into this war. And you know, they were treated not only like shit there, um, they were treated like shit when they got home and for most of their lives. And, you know, I want to really portray like that part of it. Yeah, I would say let me I for the time being, I'm going to kind of keep it with my uncle at the moment. I'm open to doing that and talking to other vets. I don't want to do that until the spring because I want to get the this chapter done. It's not the beginning first chapter; it's in the middle, but it's the first chapter that I'm creating. I want to get sort of that first chapter under the belt so I can say this is what's coming. This is what I'm doing so that like we have a way of being able to direct that conversation. Plus I also want to like work with my uncle first because I want to make sure that I take care of my ignorance level because I don't want to sound like a really stupid idiot when I'm talking to Vietnam vets. I want to at least have an understanding of the lingo, an understanding of what like the process is and the format and the sort of hierarchical structure of what the military was like out there. I also want to make sure like because like when you jump into studying the Vietnam War, you got to study the 20th century if you're going to study the Vietnam War because you got to understand how that we got sucked into that war and we weren't supposed to be there. And it goes all the way back to what happened in World War II because up until World War II, Vietnam was a French colony. The French were on the eastern side of the southeastern Asian peninsula. The British were on the western side of the peninsula. So in World War II, and I never really knew this, but the Japanese, man, they took over the entire eastern coast of Asia, all the way down to that peninsula and wrapped it around. The only thing they couldn't get was Thailand area. I think Thailand was able to stay a little bit sort of independent from Japan. They were able to negotiate that. But Japan came into Vietnam and they basically took over it. And then at the end of World War II, the French came back in. So and they never were able to get that foothold back again. And it was a constant struggle for them for about 20 years, leading up into the early to mid 60s. Until finally the French were like, we're done, we're out of here. Because at that time when the French were in there, we were just giving the French air support. We weren't supposed to have any boots on the ground. And then roughly around 1965 is when troops started going in, I believe. Yeah, Japan terrorized China. That's why they don't like each other. Basically took over all of Korea, and the just the residue of it. This just the French were in there and they couldn't get their grip back on it. And you also have to understand the side of the Vietnamese people. And the Vietnamese people have a long, thousands year history of constantly fighting for their right to their own country. They've been constantly since 2,000 years ago. They weren't called, it wasn't called Vietnam back then, it was called something else, but the culture was still there. There are people that have been constantly kicking others out of their country, and they didn't want Russia's influence in there. They didn't want us in there. They wanted to just be left alone. And it's another important part of the story where that it scares the hell out of me because there's two sides to the story. There's it's called the Vietnam War on our side, but it's called the American War on their side. And, you know, they're a culture that has been kicking people out of their country for thousands of years. And, you know, it's like, I think the main part of the story is a big part of it is that they were just fighting for their land, and we were not supposed to be there. We shouldn't have been there. um I gotta do more I also gotta do research on the Gulf of Tonkin. You know, that's a whole sort of shady area. Nixon wanted to pull out too, you know. um the problem was fucking Johnson. I think Johnson was was the ego that killed most of the soldiers, because I think we had found a way out of the war, and then I think it ended up being part of his camp, like the camp. I don't know. Just this is why I got to do the research of it. It's just all of a sudden we had a way of getting out of it, like, but then I think it was Johnson just pushed it all in deep, pushed this all in deeper, and it just kept getting gradually worse. And a lot of lies were happening, you know, to the American people on both sides. You know, like the lies that were being told about what our soldiers were doing over there, and like how the war was going, and um, you know, it was a big old clusterfuck. But yeah, so this is it's and it's this is definitely not finished. I mean, this was about 4 to 5 hours of sketching to create this and doing it digitally. And yeah, the draft is going to be a big part of this because it basically starts with the main character, who is my uncle, from his journals. Basically, he graduated from Linden High School and went down to Seaside Heights the first week. I I need to clarify. This is why I'm going to be talking to my uncle to make sure I have my facts correct. I don't know if it's right after high school, like the first weekend or the second weekend or the third weekend, but like literally after he graduated high school, he went down to Seaside Heights for the weekend and, you know, had this, I'm free, my life's about to start, you know, fell in love with somebody he met there, and it's like I'm gonna have the best summer of my life. It was 1969, you know, and he comes home and he's got the draft letter, and like I think like 2 or 3 weeks out of high school, he was off to the war. So he basically had his entire. I think about like me getting out of high school, and then it's like having my whole future taken from me. You know, the whiplash, and then thrown into this living hell, you know? So, and I have to like, I have to like from early beginning of this, the Vietnam people, the Vietnamese people and their culture, um, are not the enemy in this story. Like I said, they are the people that are fighting for, like on both sides, like they're fighting for their like country, you know, and you know the real enemy of this story is going to be, and I had to make sure that that is very clear in the writing of this. The true enemy is um, the military industrial complex. and not just the American military industrial complex. I'm talking about the military industrial complex worldwide. The military industrial complex of like Russia and the US and China, like all of it. Just these big wigs that are like people that profit off of the wars, all right? And putting our kids into these situations where they're killing each other and we're making them believe that the other side is the devil and evil, when both sides are just kids out of like kids growing up and they just want to have fun and they want to grow up and start families and fall in love and like start a life and and then having all of that taken from people that are trying to throw their ego agendas and profit margins and from it. And because that's the other thing is I to me the military industrial complex and the soldiers in our army are two separate things. Okay. And one of the things I feel like the military industrial complex does is plays these like like playing up the innocence of the soldiers fighting for freedom. And you know they do that gaslighting sort of reverse psychology on you. Like if you don't support what they're doing, you're anti-patriotic, you're against the military, you're against the soldiers, and the fact that they put the kids in the line and those are the ones that get shot while they're getting the profits from it. It's yeah. So like that's the thing is like I want to really portray the fact that our boys shouldn't even have been there. And the army, the soldiers are not the enemy. And I want to make sure I portray them like what they went through, and how they were treated. And like I feel personally like they were treated like cattle and cattle to the slaughter, and that bothers the hell out of me. I believe that we have to fight when the fight is necessary, but you know, I don't know. Yeah. Is it 59,000 dead? I need to get all of these numbers in order. And I also think this is a good time to bring this story out. All right, I think it's very like relevant to what's going on right now because I feel like every generation is sort of like in at least since the 20th century, since World War One, probably even beyond that. I feel like it's set up or programmed so that like every generation there's some sort of skirmish that puts the next generation of soldiers into a situation where I don't know, it seems like clockwork, like, oh, we got to start up another skirmish and send soldiers to war. So but yeah, so it's there's a lot of fear in writing this graphic novel this winter. There's the fear of me portraying it correctly, me writing it correctly, getting the dialogue correct, getting it historically accurate, making sure I respect the soldiers. I also want to make sure that I respect the Vietnamese culture at this point. And because like I don't, I don't want to. I want to portray them as like, what if they were like, how would we react if our country got invaded? Or was trying to be taken over or trying to be coerced in one direction or another. I feel like got the Vietnamese people got caught up in a tug of war between the East and the Western military industrial complexes. And like, yeah, I mean, I'm going to tread this really, really lightly. And I also, the other part is finding an aesthetic for the graphic novel that, I don't want it to be too hard and gritty, but I also don't want it to be too cartoony, So it's like trying to find this right comfortable edge, like in the graphic novel sort of medium where it's, you know, it's portrayed with some sense of realism, but also not to the point where it's just there's blood everywhere and it's a slaughter fest. That's not really the direction. There's enough of that out there, and that's been done enough of times. That's not what this story is about. My uncle's experience, and what he went through, and his thoughts that he had while he was going through it, and just little tiny things like that, like make you really, really think. Like he would say that they would come in off of their they would go on 2 week tours out into the jungle, um, and they would come into the military base, go to the PX, and there would be somebody from General Motors that was trying to sell the soldiers Corvettes, and General Motors paid money to bring the latest, best Corvettes over and put them on the military base and tried to sell them to the soldiers for a little bit of their paycheck. They will have this American muscle car waiting for them when they returned as heroes, you know? And I'm like, wow. Wow. I mean, it's that just that little bit says so fucking much about it, about how messed up it all was. I do have one scene. I do have one scene that I want to put in there. It's going to be probably towards the end. Um, it's not necessarily in my uncle's journals, but I think it's a part of the story that I want to put in there because the timing is off. Because if you remember, there was the Buddhist monk that set himself up on fire. And what I want to kind of do is I have this vision of this scene where, like, towards the end of this first book, there's gonna if the first book does well, I've got two sequels planned, so it'll be a trilogy if it does well. But I want to do a scene because I think the monk set himself on fire in either 65 or 67, and my uncle was there in 69. But I want to do a scene where they're kind of walking through Saigon and they're talking about it. Like they're passing by the area. They're walking through Saigon and they're passing by the area where it happened. So they start talking about it. But they're also a little bit under the influence. And I want to do the scene of where it happened, where my uncle, either my uncle or because I'm creating another character for the story that's going to be me sort of projected into that time period. So it's going to be a character that's going to represent me kind of in that like time period, studying it, feeling it. So it's either going to be my uncle's character or my character has a hallucination where they experience, like, just from the talking of it and being on the influence of something, they have a hallucination of that scene as they're walking by it. And I'm going to portray it as a hallucination where he feels like it's happening to himself, and it becomes like it's an integral part of what happens in the final chapter of the book, of the first book. So, and yeah, I've already started I've put a moratorium on me telling, because like for the past 20 years I've told people this story, and everybody's like when I would finish like the way that I want to write this, and I say it to them and I get to the ending, it's like it's a mind fuck. It just blows people's minds, and they're like, for 20 years I've had people like, you need to write this, and I'm like, I know, I don't know how. So but I put a moratorium on telling people the ending now. So like, I mean, I know that I've told, there's people out there that I've told the ending to that have heard it, but like I'm not telling the ending to any more new people, or I'm also not telling them sort of like the little sort of way I'm gonna format the timelines in the story. I don't want to give that away, because I want people to experience reading this the way that I read the journals and I went through it, because I feel the way that it's laid out and it's mapped out is what creates the mind twist at the end of the story. And um, yeah. So like I've stopped telling the people the story now, and I'm not going to tell it until it's public. Well, I'll tell them as when it's published, they can read it. All right. No, I got 3 more minutes, and then I am gonna call it a morning. Um, Today was a rough day getting going. I'm glad I I'm getting better at, like, when I first started doing these back in December. If I woke up in the morning and I wasn't feeling it, I would be like, no, I'm not doing it today. I don't need to do it today. But I'm trying to, like I said, I'm trying to be more consistent with this. Um, and, so when I wake up in the morning, um, I just realized something is hold on a second. I just realized, what? Why is my window slightly off? All my windows are slightly off. That's weird. Hold on a second. I didn't even realize this until now that the video was like, that sucks. I need to monitor it a little bit better. Yeah, it's rough. I'm still going to put it out there. I mean, my whole point is to show people my mistakes, so. Didn't even realize that the screen was off. But yeah, so this morning was just rough, and but I'm trying to be consistent. I got here. I was able to do it. So, and that's the important part. Being consistent. It's not how. A lot of it is not really necessarily how well you do. It's just showing up. One of the biggest for any. This is not just for creatives or artists or musicians or whatever. This is with everybody. Is just show up. Everything else will work itself out. Just show up, and I think that'll be the theme for today. Just show up. The rest will work itself out, and I'll be back tomorrow. I am very, very happy that the streaming worked fine, and I didn't have any any lags or anything. I still need to get good internet here. I'm streaming through my phone, so I didn't even do the shower yet. Well, I took a shower last night, so I got at least another 4 weeks to go before the next one. Anyhow, man, you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out um, and getting into the Vietnam stuff. I got a lot of research to do. It's going to be this winter, and it's really why I'm in Colorado. So I'll be holed up in my studio, focused on all of the work that I need to do. So, anyhow, I should be back tomorrow. So, have a good day. Talk to you later. Boop.